Hello and welcome to OLA 2022. Thank you so much for joining us in this session, Student Access, a partnership opportunity for public and school libraries. My name is Miranda Weiser. I received my MS-LS from Clarion University, and I am the Technical Services Librarian at Southeast Oklahoma Library System. In my current role, I oversee the daily operations for acquisitions, cataloging, interlibrary loan, electronic resources, and ILS management for the library system. I'm here with Julie Horton, the Outreach Coordinator for Southeast Oklahoma Library System. Julie is all about bringing fun and excitement to customers when planning events such as the Souls Prom-mobile that travels yearly throughout the library service area, the drive-through flu shot clinics, arranging Souls student access cards for area school systems, and more. Most recently, Souls was chosen by NASA as an official launch party site for the James Webb Space Telescope launch. By invitation from NASA, Julie spoke to a nationwide panel on how to plan for such an event, as well as hosted the Souls event in December of 2021. Before spending the last 4 years planning events, programs, and parties for library customers of all ages, Julie spent 20 plus years working in marketing, as well as print and radio advertising. We're here today to talk about how public libraries can expand their access to resources by building partnerships with local school systems. There are many public schools in Oklahoma that lack school libraries or adequate access to books to encourage reading and facilitate research. We're going to share one way that we've been able to narrow that gap in Southeast Oklahoma and offer actionable techniques for fostering stronger connections between public and school libraries.
Hello everyone. Student access cards are just one more tool in students' and teachers' ever-evolving toolbox. School semesters have become more and more elastic as COVID and its variants have become part of everyday life. These are not only useful in the classroom, allowing access to our long list of databases within our library system website, they've become a lifeline to research material, tutoring, eBooks, and more during this distance learning and homeschooling era of our lives. SACs, as they're called in my head, also allow students to check out 2 physical items regardless of whether they already have a library card or the status of that card. These will never accrue late fees. In fact, the only time money might be requested by their local library is if an item is lost or damaged. The card is designed and is unique to look and appeal to kiddos. From regular adults, they're different from those cards and the other children's cards. And although often considered the online access library card, there's a great sense of ownership that younger students feel when they receive their official looking packet. These special cards, it has their name on it. Our packet folders have their name on it. And these guys' faces, it just says, that makes me feel big, responsible, and important when they receive their cards.
And I think it would be a mistake to undersell what that source of pride means to young people. You know, it's been 30 years now, but I still remember when I was in elementary school and our local public library came to my school to teach students how to use their brand new Macintosh computers. And if, as a student, we went through their training program, then we got an endorsement on the back of our paper library card with the metal clip in it that authorized us to be allowed to use the computers at the public library. And I was so proud of that endorsement. I was the only person in my house that had that endorsement. And it resonated with me enough that it's still a vivid memory 30 years later. So taking position. Before we could roll this plan out to anyone outside of the library system, we knew that we had to lay the groundwork first. Library stakeholders spent time talking about the privileges or restrictions that might be needed for the new patron types. Because our library system has requirements such as a proven local citizenship and parental responsibility that would not be included in the student access cards, we decided on some restrictions for these cards. We would not, however, be altering the duration of borrows, thankfully. That would have made a significantly more complex setup. Only the number of checkouts at a time were going to be restricted. That made configuring the user type in our ILS significantly easier. That also made things much easier for the staff in our libraries who already knew what the normal checkout duration for each item is. Once the decisions were made, it was simply a matter of creating a new student user profile in our ILS. We opted to allow 2 physical checkouts at a time on the cards and up to 10 holds. Of course, I think it's important to remember that a big part of our drive to create these student access cards was the offer of student access to the wealth of resources available digitally from our websites. So that we could track the use of our new student access cards, we also updated the specifications for our daily, monthly, and annual circulation reports. We wanted to make sure to capture how and where the cards were getting used. Spoiler, they were being used. We also decided that we wanted the student access cards to look unique compared to our normal library card appearance. This would help staff in the libraries recognize immediately that it was a new student card rather than a typical juvenile card. We also thought that it would be fun for the student recipients to have something that looked a little bit more exciting. Not to say that our juvenile library cards aren't exciting, but different is fresh and fresh is fun. Finally, we gathered together information from our online resource vendors that would be accessible to the schools that chose to partner with us for the student access cards. We knew that Overdrive offered Sora connections and that would tie our Overdrive collections to the school's collection if they registered and it would provide additional free content directly to the school, in addition to what's already available from our library system. Our goal was to make it clear that we had a lot to offer schools, but also make it as absolutely easy as possible for schools to join us and start taking advantage of the variety of resources that we could offer. And, of course, I would be remiss to not mention the financial aspects of preparing for this outreach initiative. We reallocated additional materials funds to our eBooks and e-audiobook vendors in order to beef up our juvenile and young adult collections on these platforms.
Only the number of school systems within your library service area limits the number of potential partners for your student access card initiative. Start by reaching out to the school librarian. If there isn't a librarian on staff, English teachers are great contacts. Superintendents and principals are also good to reach out to, but they may not have time for you. Your person may ask you to present to school administration, however, so know your stuff. But typically the cards sell themselves, so there's very little need to prepare intricate presentations. Most of today's schools are short-staffed, and faculty is so overwhelmed that the only thing they really want to hear is what these cards can do for their kids and how very little of their time and thought it's going to be required to give so that they can be a part. And both of these requirements are easily met. Therefore, you are officially a superhero in their eyes. Just like librarians, teachers talk to each other. So once you've got one school on board, those cards into those classrooms in that community, no sales skills going to be required because they're going to contact you. Our first school that we did was a school about 15 minutes out of a larger city in our area. Their entire school system was 750 students, and that was a little inundating to start with. But before I could take a deep breath, once those cards were delivered and in use with those schools, I had 4 other teachers or school librarians from smaller schools in our area contact me because they'd already talked to Mrs. So-and-so, and because she had those cards, they wanted them too. Some schools insist upon getting parental permission before handing over personal data on their student body. So we've also made out a generic form asking for the information we need to process the card request and with a place for parents to sign. It does double duty that way. It gives us a spot to ask for that information we need, and it serves as that release for any liability, however perceived, from the school system. It's one little form and it met 2 needs. We prefer that the schools actually provide us with a typed out list of their students with their information. It's just easier to read. There's no questions. whomever fills out that sheet, it's right there. But we'll gladly accept the photocopied forms if that's what's offered. The real secret of success here in that partnership is making this as easy as possible for the school and the teachers. And we all love a shiny package. It makes even the most mundane items just a little bit special. Our library system invested in nice full-color cardboard folders that hold easy-to-understand information on what the student access card is and what it does, along with a sticker and a bookmark. The student's name was written on the cover of the folder, as well as on the back of the physical library card, and that just helps keep track of the two if they're ever separated. In southeastern Oklahoma, the wind can blow, and there would be nothing more terrifying than 100 cards going one way, folders go in the other, and not know which belong to whom. One of my favorite things to tell library staff and system staff is make a plan and work a plan. If you know what you're doing at the get-go, you're not going to look so silly on the other side when life's little boombies step in your way. And I find out on a daily basis life is full of little boombies. Identify your team within your library because while the work is easy, organization is imperative to keep track of what number is assigned to which student at what school, and you're going to want help with this. Many hands make light work. Make a master list of assigned numbers, name, and whatever information your library will require to make the cards. It's going to make the work so much easier every single school year if you have that master list first. We ask for the full name of the student, date of birth, address, and phone number. I find that if I begin by putting the student's name on their card and folder, as I mentioned before, and then put the card into that folder, I can have them ready for library staff to enter them into the system as time allows. They're in a box, they're alphabetized, they're ready to go. It also makes it easier for one staff member to pick up where the other was left off without confusion as they get to it when their time in their day allows. Once all of the cards are complete, we deliver these along with a gift of books and other materials. We all read, right? We're libraries after all. To school libraries as a thank you for allowing us to share our service with their students. They also, everyone does say that hindsight is 20/20. My advice to you as you start your student access card initiative is to keep the process simple, but know your process completely as you begin reaching out to your area schools. If you don't speak with conviction about what your library is offering and enthusiasm about its benefits, these educators may only translate your words into blah, 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 more work for me, or this is confusing, I don't have time for this, and I'm out. Nobody wants that to happen, including the faculty and the librarians and the teachers. Once they hear what kind of information this lays into their students' hands, they're going to want to play. You don't want to be the reason that they got a negative vibe on your great promotion, your project. If possible, get your feet wet with a smaller school district. Making and delivering 1,000+ cards is not hard, but you want your process somewhat bug-free, so start with maybe a very small school. We're lucky enough in our library system within our service area, we have some very small K through 8th grade schools. They're a great place to start, not because they're less important than a larger school, because there is more room for a dialogue. It's a smaller student body to make these cards for, and typically you're going to find a great person to just bounce off ideas as you streamline your process. One more time, I can't say it enough, seriously, make that master list while you're making your new student cards for that school as they come on board. These partnerships require maintenance in ways I didn't imagine when we started out with School 1. And things change from one year to the next. Kiddos move in, kiddos move out. Kids are going to lose their cards a lot. And if there's something easy for that teacher and you to refer back to, PIN numbers. Everything is going to require a PIN number, which I should have mentioned earlier. Have them make PIN numbers, by the way. you're going to want something there for them to take notes on, and when you get that call that little Johnny just cannot log on, you have something to refer back to with little Johnny's card number. There also alleviates any confusion from his regular library card to his student access card as you're working with that one. It makes all of those little issues become a non-issue. And I feel like we've been successful, and I know that you can be as well with your student access cards.
Under lessons learned, I could say we've also found that assessment has been a struggle. We had the circulation tracking information to know that students were beginning to come into the libraries and use their student access cards to check out physical items. We could also see a substantial jump in the use of our virtual eBooks and e-audiobook use when the first cards were distributed. In fall of 2021, however, we tried to distribute a survey to teachers in the first 5 cohort schools that partnered with us, that we had distributed student access cards to. But after weeks of reminders and emails and phone calls, we received a single response. While I'm happy to say that the single response was very positive, we had hoped for more information to formally guide our growing relationships with local schools. We're going to go back to the drawing board and hope that later in 2022 we can try again by reaching out to partner schools to schedule focus groups. And we're hopeful that the promises of food and book donations to classrooms will improve participations in our second attempt. I want to also mention that sustainability is a concern. As Julie mentioned, we knew that there would be a lot of work involved in getting these partnerships established, but what we didn't fully recognize before we started was the volume of ongoing maintenance needed to keep the project current. Another specter looming in the future is the sustainability of some of our e-resources. If you've ever been involved with ordering eBooks, then you know that purchases generally have an expiration date depending on the publisher. Access to the eBooks only lasts for a set number of checkouts or a set length of time, and then it expires. And so to maintain your collection and continue to add new content, overall prices will increase over time as your library is pushed to repurchase what you already had and buy new titles. This means that we know that in the future, we will likely need to identify additional funding if we're going to continue to offer a robust selection of e-content on those platforms and continue to add schools to our partnership program.
I started this saying that my mantra was make a plan, work a plan. We've told you how we made our plan, and we've told you how we're currently working our plan. But this is where you get to be you. You can take our plan and our work and make it your very own. I'd also encourage you, once again, use that team you're going to build. You can't do it all by yourself. Even things as small as sharing that all those email addresses of all those teachers and all those schools, even those that have told you no, and you will get those, reach out to them. Send them updates on what's new at your library, what's new on the website. Maybe just send them your monthly calendar. What you're going to do is put yourself and your library at the top of their mind in a non-invasive way. You're not pestering them. What about me? Buy my thing. What about this? Although it's free, you're still selling. But you're giving them a happy thought when they think about the library, and you're staying in the front of their mind. You don't have to do this by yourself. Maybe you send out the calendar, and your coworker that's on your team sends out the latest bestsellers list and what's hot at the library. Also, don't get discouraged. There are parts of this process that are going to take longer than the others, and it also depends on the school system that you're working with. The thing that takes the longest consistently, that you can never bet on, no matter how much you plan, is what kind of time it will take from the moment that school says, yes, we want student access cards, to when you're going to get that list of students from the school system. To us, in my simple mind, it ought to be as easy as print, send it to me snail mail, I don't care. But invariably, it can take a week. I've had it take 3 months. And unfortunately, you can't push. They will get it to you when they get it to you. You can only remind, stay available in case you can help. But don't let it discourage you at all from this great service you're about to offer. Also, pick your times on when you reach out to these schools. That first 2 weeks of August when school starts, there's no teacher in the world that I would imagine that wants to talk about student access cards. They're getting to know their kiddos, they're forming their own curriculum. Just like May, I bet you that any teacher you would try and reach out to in May, they're so tired and so looking forward to summer and wanting to reevaluate their career choice that they're not going to want to talk to you. September is great. January is great. Just before the holidays. Now, COVID and all the loveliness it's brought into our lives has made the need for a tool like this more current, on everybody's mind, because this will help with distance learning or homeschooling or other items. But even if it were parents or whomever, you don't want to be an interruption to their day to talk about your fabulous product. You want to be an asset. You want to get them thinking about possibilities, how they can enable their kiddos in all sorts of ways.
So I guess the thought we want to leave you with today is recruit your own team and be practical about what you want to try to accomplish or what's feasible for you to try to accomplish and do well. So take this plan and make it your own. If your library or library system doesn't have the funding to manage fancy folders to put the cards with a bunch of information, don't do it. Leave that part out. One thing that our library system would love to be able to do, but it just takes so much time and planning, is to create regular marketing campaigns tailored specifically for the teacher partners that we do have, so that we can have more frequent contact and highlight maybe some of our more obscure but useful for academic purposes resources. And so that's on our wish list that we're trying to work towards. But if you do have the time and people and resources, take our idea and run with it. Once you've identified your team, spend some time brainstorming, talking through what possibilities exist, what some obstacles or barriers to success will be, and just make sure that by the time you're ready to reach out to your first school, you have a full game plan, you know what you're going to be doing, and you're ready to hustle. So thank you so much for joining us at OLA 2022. Julie's and my contact information is on the screen now, and we would love to hear from you if you have any questions about student access cards, have questions about how to get started with a similar program in your own communities, or how to confront challenges along the way. Please remember to complete the session evaluation in the OLA Conference app or on the OLA Conference website, and we hope that you'll join us for many more conference sessions.